is my husband. And so, no, I'm not sexually harassing him when I'm touching him or giving him a kiss, just so you all know. Because people that don't know are like, what is going on? But I wanted to introduce him. As you guys may know, he's our head hacker at Parameter Security and one of our main instructors as well. He's been on CNN and Fox News and Bloomberg TV talking about the most recent hacks. So would you please help me welcome Dave Chronister. Excuse me.
You get a show too. Hold on one sec, Renee. One of the things that, if you haven't met Renee, if you have, you know that you can hear from a mile away. I just want to tell you real quick, because a lot of people don't realize, she's actually our CEO. She is the heart and soul of our company. She's the one that put this con on. A lot of people go, how does a small company like you put a con like this on? I go, it's actually one person. And so she is actually having major surgery. You'll see her, we're calling Stumpy right now. She's having major surgery right now. Next week, she has been in pain, but she has been able to get through here. So she is the one that did this. If you see all of our marketing, everything, this is the genius. And please give a hand to Renee. And if you ever want to know if you go ask any of my employees, I run the technical side, they have one job and one job only, and that's to keep Renee happy because I do sleep with the boss and we run into issues. So, you guys enjoying it so far? Awesome. Awesome. This is just really cool. Do me a favor real quick. If you have a seat open near you, raise your hand. All right, for those of you that are stuck in the back, if you want to have a seat, you saw that there's some seats here. Don't be shy. Nobody will bite really hard. So, all right, well, what I want to talk about today, I actually changed my talk about, if you looked at the schedule earlier, it was about the vendor persistent threat. My friend Bubba, Paul Coggin, came up with that. It's about vendor due diligence. And one of the issues you run into in this field, especially if you're a speaker, and I think everybody here that does speaking can attest to this, is you always try to figure out how to do the next best talk. And it's always about, everybody always wants that magic show. I call it, here's how to hack something, here's how to do something. And a lot of us are not just doing speaking, right? We're all practitioners as well. And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, but you get to a certain point, you go, it's really cool. I can show you how to, be able to take out an iPhone by, just snapping your finger. That's really cool, but is that really going to help? And the fact being that, okay, I'm showing you this, but most companies are failing these days because we're not even taking back to step one. We're not doing our basics, okay? Over the past couple months, I've really started to get kind of heated and personally a little upset about some of the problems we're running into InfoSec. And so what I want to talk about for the next couple minutes is I actually want to talk about why we are failing in InfoSec. Now, I am not pointing anybody out. Some of you may take this personally. Please don't. But one of the problems we run into is to be able to better ourselves, we need to figure out what we're doing wrong. We need to be honest with ourselves and be able to move forward. Okay? Now, before we get started, a little bit about me. Again, I am a security practitioner. I am not a researcher. In fact, last year was the only talk I've ever done where I did research. Most everything I talk about is stuff that I actually see in the real world. There are some very good researchers out there, some people I respect tremendously, and they have a purpose. But when I talk about issues I see, I'm telling you it's not theory. This is real things that we see. I am an ethical hacker. That does not mean I'm a polite cougher. I am my technical term is I am a third-party technical auditor, but most people don't like that term, so we do ethical hacking. I got into this. I spent about 15 years in tech support before this. Got into this in 2006 with myself and Renee. Christmas Eve 2006, we founded the company with our friends Jim Bean and Budweiser. So, and really, if you ever understand how we started our company and the reason we do what we do is we weren't really here to make money. That would be nice. But really, we were tired of working for just working for a paycheck. We wanted to actually enjoy our jobs. We wanted to make sure that we were able to give good quality. We were wanting to be the company that our employees want to work for and our clients want to work with. So that's how we do our job, and we continue to do that. Now, not only do we do pen testing, and I do a lot of the pen testing as well, we are a forensic in a group. We specialize in incident response, but we also do traditional forensics. Now, I will get into this later on today in my talk, but if you notice, I have my Missouri PI license here. In the state of Missouri, and raise your hand if you're a PI. I know there's a few in here. All right, they're way in the back there. But if you do forensics for a third party, you must be a PI in the state of Missouri. It is illegal to perform incident response and forensics in the state of Missouri without a PI license. That's the same in 42 states, and we'll actually show you right now the recommendation is to charge you with a felony. In January 1st, 2017, it becomes mandatory. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We are PIs in the state of Missouri. We'll explain why that's very important. We do run Hacker University. Again, I spent time as in technical support, and I went to a few boot camps, and I hated them. We've all been to those boot camps where the instructor knows everything about the book, but you ask them a real question and they can't answer it. So in our organization with Hacker University, all of our instructors are practitioners in that field. And we try to give a lot more information. We try to give real-world experience. We're not professional teachers. We are professionals teaching you. And again, I am one of the founders. Myself and my better half are the founders. She really is the boss. So you will talk to her at some point. We are a third-party auditing company. We do not provide any solutions, and I'll get a little bit into that. I don't believe that you can look for issues and then be able to present the solutions for that problem and still remain unbiased. All right. A little bit about me. Now, the reason I called this coming of age is I kind of feel like the InfoSec world is in their teenage years. And we all remember our teenage years, right? Really awkward, not really knowing what you're wanting to do. My parents are actually sitting in here right now, and they can kind of remember my teenage years. I was going to put a photo of me, and I realized I looked really dorky. I had hair that would go down the middle of my back, but I had curls. Certain curls, so I looked like Pippi Longstocking, and this was like '88, so I had the big metal mullet. It was horrible. But you're awkward. We don't really know what to do. We have the abilities to be great, but we really just don't have the guidance. And I think that this is exactly where we are right now in the InfoSec world. People understand that security is a problem. People are waking up to the fact that you cannot protect yourself. The idea of protection or preventing an attack is a myth. It's now about absorbing the attack and mitigating the problems. When we first started the company, everybody tells you to have an elevator pitch, and you know, the elevator pitch is, can you explain your company in 30 seconds or less. And our first elevator pitch was, we're third-party technical auditors, and we'll come in, test your security, blah, 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 blah. Realized that was boring real quick. So we changed our elevator pitch to, we're ethical hackers, we break into your company and tell you how we got in. That makes it real easy. But interestingly enough, in 2006, a lot of organizations, in fact, a lot of organizations that are now our clients said, well, that's an interesting concept. I'll let you know if I know anybody that needs that. You need that, right? I was talking to a few clients this morning, and they're like, we're finally going to sign up for some of this stuff. People are seeing that other people are being hacked. Unfortunately for you, fortunately for us, every hack is more business for us. People are starting to wake up that this is going to be an issue. So, we had the Cyber Brigade up here, we have Enterprise here, we have Charter, we have all these companies that are looking for good people because the threat has become very real and everybody's understanding it. However, we're doing great as professionals, but there's a little bit of a problem. Now, I have a couple definitions here, and I explain where I'm coming from. The term community. Renee said we have a great community feel where there is a great InfoSec community. Definition, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Okay, the way I look at a community is this is how we see ourselves. Okay? Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about today is industry. And this is where we're lacking. An industry is a particular form or branch of economic or commercial activity. To me, simply, that's how others see us. Now, the problem we have right now is we're an information security community. We are not an industry. Now, why is that a problem? Because when we don't have an industry, people start looking at the community as representation. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this is a bad thing. Community is good. It is a great, great thing. However, a couple of the issues. One, without an industry presence, community becomes the face of InfoSec. All right? In parameter, we're all human. We all are learning all the time. We all have struggles. We talk about, and if you were in my class, I talked about with pen testing, you hit the wall every 6 months. You want to quit your job. You're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm learning too many, I have too many challenges. We work each other out. We help each other out. We're a family. We're a community. However, from the outside, we keep that curtain closed. Even though I just told you about it, right? We keep that curtain closed. We're parameter. We're experts in the field. We do not air our dirty laundry with other people. And this is one of the problems I see happening. Again, there's no problem with community and people talking, but this is something that happened a couple weeks ago. And what you find is cybersecurity, InfoSec, information security is such a hot topic now. People are searching for information on it, and unfortunately, they're getting into private conversations of the information security community, and this is causing issues with us. Okay? Now, along those lines, we may have issues. A community is a family. We don't agree on everything. And I would say in the InfoSec world, if we all agreed on everything, we failed as an InfoSec community. And we all know that as information technology professionals, we all tend to have some social issues. Let's just put it that way. It kind of is inherent with what we do. We are used to always being the ones that are right. And unfortunately, that kind of falls into play. But the problem is without an industry presence, the community becomes the face of InfoSec. And this is a nice little talk between the jester and Kevin Mitnick. I actually found kind of humorous. But problem is here on Twitter, it becomes public for everybody. And this is what people see. Well, this person says this. Well, this person says this. And that becomes the face of the industry. Not a bad thing. I'm not a big fan of Twitter. Everybody's seen Adrian over here. Adrian will tell you, if you want to find out about information security, where do you go? Twitter, right? It's like, oh crap, he's failing. We go on to Twitter. I'm not a big fan of Twitter, but all of my people get on Twitter. Unfortunately, when you have friends on Twitter, you may have feuds, you may have stuff like that, it becomes public. And you know what? If I'm doing that with a buddy of mine that I play poker with or I game with that isn't part of the industry, no one says anything. But if that friend happens to be in the industry, it all of a sudden becomes, this is what's wrong with cybersecurity. Okay? Now, one of the major genesis about this is the problems we run into when we are dealing with pen testing. And I can't honestly say I'm the only one that believes this. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in the industry. Earlier this year, myself and Kevin Johnson were keynotes at B-Sides Tampa. And I was talking about this, and he was right before me, and he talked about the exact same thing. I think this is something a lot of us are running into. We don't really have standards. Oh, sure, we have some standards, PTES, OSTM, 853. But as an industry, we don't have a unified standard. Has anybody ever heard of the SOC standards, SAE 16? And I deal with vendor management all the time. I mean, and I get it. I can see a few people that I've done vendor management with here before, and I can tell you, we tell our clients to do vendor management, and then they do vendor management on us. It can become tough. It can be a little bit of a challenge. But one of the things I see a lot of times is community acceptable audits, like the SAE 16. Now, they have 3 areas, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Now listen to this. SOC 1, internal controls over financial reporting. Not bad. SOC 2 is called SysTrust. Security, availability, processing, integrity, confidentiality, or privacy controls. And SOC 3 is Web Trust, security, availability, processing, integrity, confidentiality, or privacy controls. Does anybody know what the one requirement is to be able to perform a SOC audit? Yeah, I heard it. You have to be a licensed CPA, certified public accountant. Now, SOC 1 makes sense, but think about this for a second. SOC 2 and 3 are dealing with the CIA of systems. And this is a certified public accountant that's looking at it. That's like saying I require someone to have the CISSP to do the end of your tax records. But in all seriousness, this is required. It's called an industry standard. Okay, this is one of those things that just blows my mind. And people pay 6 figures to get this done. Do you know why the SOC is an industry standard? Because they have unified as an industry and put this out as a standardized audit that no matter what accounting firm you go to, it's going to be the same report. It's going to be the same audit. This should not be happening. But unfortunately, the reason this is successful is because as technical InfoSec professionals, we are failing at being able to create standardization. We need to make sure, and here I'm talking more about red team, okay? Blue team, solution providers, don't take this the wrong way. I'm talking about red teaming here. I'm talking about auditing. We need to make sure that we do segmentation. We need to make sure, for example, the oversight, the security, the testing of the security are done by a different segmentation than the ones providing solutions. And I'm not just talking about third parties. I'm talking about internally. if you are installing security solutions, if you are managing security solutions, and you're also the one auditing them, you're failing. Your security group within an environment should be oversight. Okay? Now, why? A lot of times, if it is the solution provider, whether internal or external, they will only address the issues that they have the solutions for. They'll only address the issues they're comfortable with. I used to work for a software company, and they would do internal security code reviews. And they would do what they call two-man reviews, where they would swap the code. Problem is no one knew what the code looked like. No one knew what secure coding looked like. If I don't know how to protect against a SQL injection, how in the world am I going to be able to actually detect a SQL injection vulnerability in someone else's code? No matter how hard you try, it's very hard to stay unbiased. When we first started the company, people would say, well, why aren't you fixing the issues? Why don't you know what you're doing, why don't you fix the issues? Well, the whole idea here was, if I audit your system and I say, here's the problem, I want you to know that I'm not doing this to provide the solution. And if I did provide the solution, the next year when I came in and did the audit, if I said it was still a problem, I'm an idiot. If I said that it wasn't a problem anymore, was it really not a problem, or am I not reporting it? Okay? And I'm not saying that people are malicious in this, but if you are providing a solution, if you are the ones implementing, if you implemented something, it's very hard to stay unbiased in testing it. You need to have that third-party oversight, whether internal or external. Unfortunately, we run into this quite a bit, and this is one of the reasons why I started the company. When I came in, when I was at the bank, I'd basically have people that said, we want to make you compliant, or it'd be solution providers. We're going to come and give you a free security assessment. Oh, okay. And the only issues they found were stuff they had solutions for. I had people working for me. I didn't need that. I needed to know what the issues are. We need to make sure we're doing this in our environment or not. One of the big issues, and this is a lot of times more third party, is the people doing the assessments do not understand the regulatory requirements or needs of their customers. Who here deals with GLBA? Couple. GLBA states that you cannot audit your system if you architect, installed, maintained, or updated it. So, solution providers doing it are actually breaking GLBA. PCI, full disclosure, we're QSAs, has some really goofy stuff that do not follow general security best practices. If you don't segment your network right, every single system within your PCI environment is in scope. You have one system that has one problem, you flunk PCI. A lot of the assessors don't understand this. I actually got in an argument. I get in arguments a lot. I had a discussion, we'll just say a discussion, with a client that their solution provider said, well, if you store that credit card as a hash, it's no longer PCI in scope for PCI. And they were the ones that sold the solution. And I said, that's not true. Well, yes, it is true. You don't know what you're talking about. They're the ones that built it. I don't know what to tell you. It's not true. Problem was they were our partners. And it became a very awkward situation. If you don't know the requirements and the needs of your customer, how are you going to make sure that they're dealing with it? And you should do this for solution providers as well. Understand what they're dealing with. I can tell you, coming from the bank area, our security officer at the time was the security officer because he was the last person to the meeting. Okay? A lot of times your support in these smaller banks are they're the support because they know how to turn on a computer. I've had, but they get this responsibility. They're looking for you for guidance. If you are a technical support provider and you want to make a crap load of money, understand how PCI works, truly understand it. Understand GLBA and go to small and medium businesses and you are going to make a ton of money. Okay? But we need to understand that. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. There are some really, really bad laws on the books because people don't understand it. I was really kind of flabbergasted earlier this year when certain senators wanted to pass some legislation and they'd only sent 1 or 2 emails in their entire lives. There is a House of Representative, a congressman from California I'd never heard of before. He became my hero when the FBI was stating that encryption is bad and we need to regulate encryption. And this guy was a computer science major. I think he has doctorate. And he's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot if you think that backdooring for the, quote, good guys is only going to be for the good guys. Unfortunately, there's some really bad laws out there. But as professionals, we need to follow them. About 10 years ago, the EU had a conference, and they were trying to deal with how to deal with hacking. And they came up with a resolution. And the resolution was, any tool that can be used for hacking should be illegal. Sounds silly, right? The United Kingdom and Germany passed it. Technically, running Linux and Windows in Germany and the United Kingdom is illegal. Running pen test is illegal. I brought this up to the PCI Council. They didn't like me when I did training because I kept raising my hand going, wait, hey. And I go, you do know that it's illegal to do. And they're like, no, we had no idea. But they don't enforce it. But as ethical hackers, do you break the law that they don't enforce, or do you not break the law? That's the trouble we're running into. 42 states of the Union require you to be a PI to perform forensics and incident response. Okay? Now, what's the problem here? A lot of people go, well, I'll have to be a PI everywhere, and that's true. Reciprocation laws, they do have some, but for example in Missouri, if you have a PI license, it doesn't work anywhere else. So if I go somewhere else, I have to have a PI license or have someone else work for it. If you are not a PI and you are doing forensics and you collect evidence, this evidence was obtained illegally. It can get thrown out of court very easily. Okay? I told this to a couple of my clients, and they're like that they had some issues with a certain industry. They were getting sued. And they're like, really? We could have thrown this out? If all of my lawyers that work with me know this. Okay? How many people actually know that you have to be a PI? Here's the problem. A lot of people are not following it. And so I can actually come in, and they're collecting evidence, and not to really, well, I'll bring this up in a second, but they're collecting evidence, and then I tell my people, I say, get their PI number. Oh, they don't have a PI number. Okay, great. Well, what we'll do is you can get the evidence thrown out of court, and I'll report them to the PI board. Now, if you want to find out in Missouri, you can go to the PI board and find out. And I can tell you there's quite a few PIs here. You do not have to be a PI if, one, you are a government employee that's required to do this, i.e. cop. So even though a lot of the cops in here are PIs, just because. Or if you're doing it for your own company. But if you want to look this up, you can go look up companies. Go see who's doing your incident response. I just randomly picked someone out. I won't mention their names, but it rhymes with Dandient. They are not PIs in the state of Missouri. For those of you dealing with PCI, not a single PFI in the state of Missouri, or not a single PFI is a licensed private investigator in the state of Missouri. They are operating illegally in this state and in other states. This is a really bad law, but it's a law. And we have people not following it. Now, not just to pick on PIs or forensics. We have certain people that are, during the day, performing pen tests, at night hacking, black hat hacking. You can't serve two masters. All right? We don't have these ethical standards that we need. We need to make sure that we don't have any sort of front that helps us explain to Germany, explain to United Kingdom that this is a very bad law. It's to the detriment of your citizens. We don't have people going to the states saying this is not a good law. Just because you're a PI doesn't necessarily mean you're good with forensics. I will tell you, there are forensics groups that are trying to push it the other way, because their opinion is, if we can get in and we can make it a felony in every state, then they can report other people, and then they become one of the few PIs in that state. Now, if you're curious about the state of Missouri, here is the statute for what happens if you violate it. Now, right now, it's voluntary. If you get reported, this can happen to you, but starting January 1, 2017, mandatory. Any person who violates is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Class A misdemeanor means that you will no longer be allowed to do any forensics in the state of Missouri. You will be reported, and chances are that will screw up any chance to become a PI in any other state. Any second or subsequent violation is a Class E felony with a mandatory 1 year in jail. Minimum 1 year in jail. All right? This is getting serious. If down in Texas, they already have this, and the sheriffs know it. You go down to Texas, you don't have a PI license, you better make sure you have bail money, because they're going to arrest you. It's out there. But how do we deal with it? How do we get rid of these bad laws? Well, really what we need to do is we need to grow into that industry. We need to keep that community. Community's great, but we need to become a fully functioning industry. Why? Well, a couple reasons. Just like in our environments, standardization is a good thing. Okay? Having standardized industry terms. We run into the issue where we'll go in and we'll say, okay, we can do a penetration test, it'll be $15,000. And someone will say, well, someone's going to do it for me for $600. I go, that's not a penetration test. Well, yes, it is. No, I can tell you it's not. In that case, it was MBSA being run externally on Unix systems. It was beautiful. What is a pen test? What is a vulnerability assessment? What does it mean to do a web application? We need to make sure we're all playing on the same terms. What is a pen tester? What is a security analyst? What does a security administrator do? Being able to have that standardization of just typical terms across the industry is going to make it easier for everybody. We run into the issues a lot of times where we'll put out a bid, and then someone will come in and do a whole different style, and then the client's like, can you help me do this apples to apples? And so we have to change everything. If we all are working on the same page, it's going to make it easier. And by the way, for those that are in the security field, those that are third-party security, you already know this. There's more than enough work to do for all of us. We have competitors in here. We have friendly competitors. Mr. Crenshaw is one of my competitors, and I love the man. But there's more than enough work for all of us. And doing these standardized terms is really going to help us. Standardize our methodologies. There are methodologies out there, and we talked about a few of them. P-test is a very good one. To me, it goes a little too far, but that's just my personal opinion. I think a methodology shouldn't talk about tools. But Do we have a methodology for dealing with HIPAA, for GLBA, for NERC, FERC, FSMA, Sarbanes-Oxley? We do in our organization. Trusted Sec has some. Pseudo-Secure has some. But they may not be exactly the same. Why don't we have the same methodologies we're working with? Because one of the big problems in our industry is, and kind of hold back if John's in here, because this is one of the worst parts of being an auditor, is every once in a while you need to have another entity doing the audits. Okay? Just to make sure there's oversight. And being able to make sure, you know, if I can't do it that year, I go, hey, go talk to Dave and Adrian over at Trusted Sec, that they're getting the exact same thing. Vice versa. If I run a pen test externally, it's the same methodology that you're running internally. Okay? There are good guidelines. There are methodologies out there. They are not all created equal. We need to create a way that people understand how these work. Standardized risk ratings. Everybody should have risk ratings. What's critical? What's high? What's medium? What's low? What's informational? Within an organization, you understand what may be high for one person is medium for another person. You have these standardizations. Yeah, we have the CVSS, but it's a vulnerability in a vacuum. They don't really address mitigating factors if it's internal, if it's external. If we could create as an industry, this is what we consider high based on this criteria. This is what we consider medium based on this criteria. We're going to be able to be a lot more standardized. Now, trust me, even if everybody has the exact same criteria, there will be disagreements. And that's good. That's acceptable. But it's better than everybody having different criteria for different areas. And finally, standardized reporting. I love our reports. I'm very proud of our reports. I think we do a very good thing. And you know, it's real tough when you're a business owner. You have proprietary information. I think our reports, if you've ever gotten one, are very good. But the problem is you get a report from us, you get a report from someone else, you may get two whole different formats, layouts, information. What we're looking at is I'm talking about doing like a SOC, where it doesn't have to be exactly the exact same layout, but we should have the same representation of the same information within these reports. So you know, if you come to us, if you come to Trusted Sec, if you come to Pseudo-Secure, if you go to whoever, that you're going to have the same information in there, minimum information. Makes sense, right? We just standardize. But right now, we don't have that. We need to have a formal initiative to teach the purpose of InfoSec. Because I can tell you right now, as IT professionals, we have failed over the past 10 years and given the wrong impression. Back in 99, 98, for those with enough gray hair to remember this, the whole mentality was, hey, let us worry about technology, we'll protect you. Just leave us alone, let us do our thing. Everything was a solution, right? We're waking up to the point that we can't protect them. Technology is not going to protect you. Okay? When I first started this company, my whole idea was if you had the right technology, you're safe. I don't believe that anymore. Right now, I believe technology is a tool there to help you, but without good policies and good training for all your employees, you're never going to win. But how do we teach that to our people inside and outside? How do we teach that to the government and to the industries in general? We need to work with the federal government. We need to have some sort of initiative to work with these different federal, local, state entities to get rid of these bad laws and to come up with good legislation. Trust me, I wish we could say that there'd be no legislation on security. I'm a small government guy. I like that. the genie's out of the bottle. We failed. And the government's stepping in. But when you have people that have sent one email their entire life coming up with this, we need to educate them on what's going on. We need to have, for lack of better terms, a lobbying association that helps us to make sure that we have good legislation that protects us, that makes sense, that's not going to hinder security. Yeah, the bad guys, we make everything that you hack, that's hackable, illegal. Well, the only people that you're hurting are the people that are trying to protect themselves, because last time I checked, the reason criminals are criminals is because they don't follow the law. And we need to have them understand this as much as you can make Congress understand that. It's very hard to do. And then finally, we need to create standards for our organization and our auditors. There are a bunch of code, different ethical standards. You're a CISSP, you have to follow their standards. You are, CEH, you have to follow their standards, whatever. But we really need to make sure that we have a standard level of high professional ethics. Okay? Anybody here a lawyer? I know there's at least one or two. The board, the law boards are not government. They are a self-regulating industry, and they have professional standards. If you do not follow them, you're going to get kicked out of the board. Okay? We need to have a place that people that are following these can say, I follow these standards. This is what, as a security professional, I say that I will follow, I will do. I will not hack at night. I will protect information. I will not use it for personal gain. I will make sure I do responsible disclosure and not tweet or decide to attack the system to show someone how I can do it. And we need to make sure that the industry maintains appropriate professional controls. For example, how do they store their client data? Like, we store it in a vault, right? We don't even do cold storage. Do they have what they require to do their jobs? Talking about the PI license, E&O insurance. E&O is errors and omissions. This is bonding for professional services. If I screw up, I have insurance. Does everybody have that? We need to have some sort of standard that says, yes, I have this, I have this, I have this. I am protecting my company and I am protecting my clients. Okay? Now, here's my proposal. And this is something we have been talking about in the organization in our company for a while. And I can tell you, after I get done with this, my boss is going to go, wow, you just brought that out, because she doesn't know I'm bringing this out. But I figured, why not? Today's the day to do it. This is what I propose, and this is what Parameter is going to do. We are going to head up and create a nonprofit association for InfoSec professionals. This is not a Parameter company, but we're going to help build it. We are going to work with experts in the industry. We are not the end-all be-all. I believe in getting groups of experts will make a good product. But we are going to create a face of our industry. Our ultimate goal is nothing more than to create a platform to represent and better the information security industry. All right? And what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that when you have certain tests done, that they're standard, that when you have ethical requirements, that there's something to follow. Okay? That we're not always dragged through the dirt by the media or by Congress or by our CEO, whoever it is. We become a face. This is not something we're going to do alone. We need your help to do this. Renee's out of the room, right? Okay. All right, so here are our goal, our timeline. Nobody tell her about this, right? Someone's going to run up and go, oh, you're screwed. Yeah. Our initial goals, number 1, define industry standards. And what we're talking about here is not only standards and methodologies, but titles. This is a big issue. When I was at A.G. Edwards, I was an exchange analyst. My title was systems programmer analyst. I can't code to save my life. And when I left there, I'd go to recruiters. They're like, oh, you're a programmer? Hell no. That was just my title. Let's make sure we create definitions of titles and what those skill sets are. Okay? Again, one of the issues we run into is what's more important, your policies or your people, your technology? You know, it shifts back and forth. And right now what I see is everybody's really, really into the technology, which is great. But then policy just kind of gets thrown to the wayside. In a war, without a good plan, you're going to fail. Without good people to execute that plan, you're going to fail. You need both. So, we need to understand what the skill sets are. A person doing policy auditing is not going to be the same skill set as someone doing pen testing. You may have some that have both. But we need to define what that is and make sure people understand. If this person is being hired for a pen testing position, this is what they should have. If this I have the sign that says "shut up." If they are a policy auditor, this is the skill sets they should have. Define professional ethics specific to InfoSec industry. We need this. All right, this is not the Wild West anymore. We've been treating it as the Wild West, and unfortunately, that's got us where we are now. We have people that are on the fringe. That's fine. I'm not talking down to them. They can do what they want. To me, this is a business. We need to make sure that the people that are in this for business have an ethical standard. And when you say we follow this ethical standard, we're able to, you know exactly what we're talking about. And then create a list of ethical methodologies, efficient methodologies. If these methodologies do not exist, work with industry experts to create them. Again, we don't want to recreate the wheel. P-Test is out there. It's great. OWASP is out there. It's great. What we want to do is we want to be able to show how those work, that these are good methodologies. We want to explain the difference between something like an OWASP methodology and an 853 guidelines, that there are differences between them. Then we want to proactively engage with commerce and industry or government to ensure InfoSec is understood and supported. That's one of the biggest things. We're that middle child. I'm a middle child. We're never understood, right? We want people just to understand what things mean. Number 1, work to change ineffective laws with common sense. I call this, for example, the Oklahoma PI law. And the reason I say this is Oklahoma does it right with the PI. If you're a PI anywhere else, if you need to do work in Oklahoma, you pay $100 and you get 6 weeks that you can do your job. Makes sense. Makes sense. I can work in Oklahoma whenever I want. The other one I want to put in here is we want to make sure that people understand the difference between certifications and certificates and what it actually means. Not all certifications are equal. All right, our timeline. By the end of this year, we will announce our organization that we have established. It's going to be a nonprofit. This will be something that, as Parameter, we will take the responsibility to make sure to get off the ground, but this is not a Parameter-only issue. I am, this summer and this fall, going to be talking with some other leaders in this industry, some other pen testing companies, and hopefully get them on board to help push this. By March, We will identify board members, and all the board members are the ones to make sure that we are moving this forward. But this is going to be an industry effort. Prioritize our goals. Hopefully by ShowMeCon next year, I can tell you what our initial goals are. And then from there, work for change. Any questions?
Finding the problem and leaving it up to the recipient of that information to fix it. I think it would be very important to have a voice of maybe just a couple of clients that you have to basically come up with that structure so that you know exactly what your customers are looking for when you're creating this body of work.
Oh, Dave, that's a horrible idea. No, I'm just kidding. No. And actually, that's one of the things I was looking at. If you notice what I talked about was more the red teaming side. I really think that there needs to be a blue team side of this too, that really understands. Let's face it. Like I said, the sponsors out there, they get security. They understand the basics of security. You go talk to a lot of companies, they go, yeah, we know security. Yeah, they know how to patch a system, which they don't even do. And so being able to work on both the defensive and the blue and the red team is important. And I can't stress this enough. As Parameter and as these other industry experts that we try to bring on board, we will help spearhead it, but this is an industry. This is something that every single person in this room will have their voice and will be able to help develop this. We want to make sure that we can make the best solution that we can. All right, any more questions? Okay. Either I did a very good job explaining it, or everybody's just like, oh my God, I have no idea what the man just said. All right. Thank you very much.